She is a woman with a captivating beauty. Seo Rinha, a top star. However, one day, while filming, she encountered an accident, falling off a cliff and into the sea. When she regained consciousness, she found herself in a snowy forest. As she pondered if this was a dream, a wild beast appeared before her, prompting her to gasp in fear. Just as the beast lunged at Seo Rinha, it was swiftly cut in half by a sword strike. Standing before her was a silver-haired man who spoke a language she couldn't understand, leaving her puzzled. In that moment, Seo Rinha had a sudden realization. There's the fact that the weather and scenery suddenly change. And that big monster too. Wait, have I been transported to a different dimension? So transporting to different dimensions is a real thing. Isn't this something that only happens in the novels and manhwas? Suddenly, the man extended his hand, and although Seo Rinha was wary, she could sense no malice. Tentatively, she reached out and took his hand. The man then gifted her a bracelet, which turned out to be a device for instant translation, allowing her to understand his language. The man asked if she was from another world, advising her not to panic and to gather her spirits. He's not that shocked about the idea of transporting to different dimensions, and there's the fact he gave her the translating device. Curious, she asked him why he wasn't surprised by her situation. His cold response left her speechless. I find corpses and bones once every few years, but it's my first time seeing a person alive. Realizing she should stay close to him until she can guarantee her safety, so she decided to seduce him. She utilized her beauty and gentleness, asking if he was a knight who hunts beasts. However, the man remained unmoved, flashing a terrifying smile. Then he introduced himself as Kalcion Lembird, the head of Lembird and the Duke of the northern part of the Icline Kingdom. In order to avoid drawing too much attention to herself, Seo Rinha lied, introducing herself as Selena and extending her hand for a handshake. Unexpectedly, Kalcion lifted her up and kissed the back of her hand. Then, he uttered, "Welcome to this place, foreigner." This gesture made Seo Rinha blush as she had only received it while she was filming or at awards ceremonies. But Kalcion's expression quickly changed as he stated, "If you want to leave this mountain alive, then prove your usefulness." Rinha hesitated for a moment, but in order to survive, she grasped Kalcion's hand and said, "I am really useful. I used to be praised like the morning light or salt of the world, back where I came from. I'm sure it'll be the same here. I'll give it my all to become the one that you need." Impatiently, Kalcion withdrew his hand and said, "I was asking whether you can provide anything from your world for the development of Lembird." With growing confidence, Rinha replied, "Back where I came from, I'm such a well-known actress that everyone knows who I am, but using my body, I'm especially good at acting." Unexpectedly, Kalcion nonchalantly sat down, saying, "Really? Then try to do it right now. Act." Rinha felt tearful and helpless, muttering, "What act should I perform?" Kalcion ordered, "You play the villainess," and then waited for Rinha's performance. Without further explanation, with no other choice, she approached Kalcion and, with a fierce expression, said, "Hey, who are you to order me around? Did you think I'll become your slave just because you saved me? Don't jump to conclusions by yourself and mumble like that at me." Despite her fear of Kalcion's potential anger, he calmly responded, "Pass." Rinha cheered happily, relieved that her life was spared. However, Kalcion remarked, "If you can act this way with me as your opponent, you'll be able to do more than enough for the role that I want you to act as." This statement frightened Rinha, making her wonder what else he would make her do. Kalcion added, "You will enter society and pretend to be my lover and have death threats thrown at you." These words shocked Rinha to her core. Kalcion's proposition to confront death threats left her questioning if he was essentially asking her to sacrifice herself if she didn't comply with his demands. He would undoubtedly abandon her in this forest, leaving her completely alone. She couldn't help but wonder, why had he chosen her? Was it for political reasons, to integrate into society and face these threats? Entrusting such a task to someone he had only just met indicated that he had no one else he could rely on. Ultimately, she realized that maybe she was the only one trustworthy and capable of fulfilling this role. Exploiting this, she demanded compensation from Kalcion. After a moment of contemplation, Kalcion agreed to let her live in Lembird Castle and provided her with additional expenses. He promised to furnish her with everything she needed to settle down luxuriously after completing her work, and even offered her hope of returning to her former life. Astonished, Rinha asked, "I can go back?" Kalcion replied earnestly, "I'm not exactly sure, but there's a way." Rinha felt hopeful, realizing she had nothing here and could achieve anything if she could return. To fulfill this wish, she vowed to Kalcion, "I will do my best for you, Before returning to the castle, Renha suggested that their love story should develop with Kalcion saving her from a crisis and falling in love with her beauty at first sight. Reluctantly, Kalcion agreed, and the two began their performance, with Kalcion carrying Renha back to the castle in his arms, and this scene was witnessed by Calcio's subordinates. But for the Duke, who had never been in love, he didn't know how to act, so his body stiffened uncontrollably, making it difficult for him to breathe properly. Quickly, he regained his composure and said, "I'll carry her. We will return to the castle. Tell them to prepare." This statement left his subordinates stunned, thinking, what on earth is happening right now? Was His Excellency beaten by some kind of monster? Seeing this scene, Renha couldn't help but feel happy and said, "You did great." Everyone was so surprised. Unexpectedly, the usually indifferent Kalcion shyly lowered his head and said, "Shut it." After a while, the two returned to the castle, and Kalcion instructed the servants to prepare food in rooms for Renha. Back in the room, Renha curiously asked, "Why exactly do you need me to act as the Duke's villainous lover?" Kalcion replied, "My prospective fiancé died, and it was rumored that she was a villainess." Realizing her mistake, Renha apologized. "I am sorry for your loss." However, Kalcion remained unusually calm, saying, "No need to be sorry. It just makes me angry that someone dared to touch the fiancé that I chose personally." This response left Renha speechless, prompting her to ask, "How did your prospective fiancé die?" Kalcion explained, "Originally, since the north was far from the capital of the kingdom, few people cared for the north. But that was before coal mines were found here. After that, of course, a lot of proposals were sent here. So I selected a quiet and gentle baroness, and she died in my own mansion on the night before the engagement party. Challenge against the Lenberg dukedom. It's a challenge that someone can easily kill a person inside the mansion, and an unspoken threat to not marry, unless it's with someone within their power. Since they dared to threaten me, they should be prepared to give me their heads." At that moment, a servant knocked on the door. "Your Excellency, the bath is ready. Can the servant come in?" Thinking about her modern clothing, Renha, in order not to reveal any flaws, instructed Kalcion, "Don't be surprised even if I do something strange. Prepare yourself. I'll show you what true acting is." Suddenly, a voice flashed through the air. I don't want anyone else to join us. Tell everyone to go back. Tell your servants not to come in either. I don't want someone else to touch your body." These words left the servants outside bewildered, and the atmosphere inside the room became awkward. Sensing the situation, the servants discreetly left. Then, Renha changed into a bathrobe and had Calcio tear her modern clothes. Suddenly, Calcio embraced Renha and pulled her close, covering her mouth. "Be quiet, there's someone eavesdropping." Renha inquired, "Is it an assassin?" Calcio confirmed, and Renha responded, "If it's a spy, then we must make good use of this opportunity." Then she pushed Calcio down, saying, "This sort of thing, you should leave it to a professional." Recently started doing Manhwas recap. If there's anything that needs improvement, please feel free to leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe. Your support is my greatest motivation.